following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello and welcome to Perspectives. My name is David Schoeneman and I'm your host on this program. And I'm the Alderman for Ward 3 here in Nashua. On Perspectives, we take a look at a variety of issues that are important to Nashua residents and taxpayers on a state, local, and a national level. We do this because we want you, our viewers, to be informed on the issues that our society is facing and what your government is doing to work with them. We want you to be informed so that when election time comes in November, you can vote wisely. Today we're going to take another look at a very important issue here in Nashua, and that's public education. As you know, if you've watched the program before, you've learned here that public education in Nashua costs approximately $13,000 per pupil per year for non-special ed students. At the same time we're spending that kind of money, Nashua School District is unfortunately ranked in the bottom 20% in the state. That ranking, by the way, is based on numbers that are derived from data that is submitted to the New Hampshire Department of Education, as well as the U.S. Department of Education. Based on those figures, Nashua School District is ranked in the bottom 20% in the state of New Hampshire. At the same time that that's happening, we have a charter school movement that's advancing here in New Hampshire, and in fact, we have a couple of charter schools right here in Nashua. The charter schools spend approximately $5,500 to $6,500 per pupil per year. And while they're spending that money, which is roughly half what our public schools spend, they are ranked among the best in the state. Clearly, the charter school movement is producing a better product for the students at a much lower cost. And if we have a better product at a lower cost, we have better value, overall value for the taxpayer. To help us take a look at the issue of public education, and particularly to contrast that with public education available through the charter schools, is Amy Bottomley, who is the founding director of the MicroSociety here in Nashua. Amy, as well as being the founding director, has been in public education for 20 years, and in fact is still in public education because, of course, charter schools are public facilities, and they are funded by public dollars. Amy, welcome, and thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start by taking a look at what a charter school is. Can you tell us what a charter school is exactly, and maybe what some of the background of the formation of the schools are?
Sure. So charter schools really ultimately allow free choice for families. So all charter schools are unique in themselves. What happens is, we have our founders who wrote the charter, proposed it to the DOE, and was approved. And ours, particularly MicroSociety, is about learning through real-world application, where other charter schools might have a different theme. There's ones around the arts, there's others with science and math focus. So it really is about, providing a free choice for families that's different than the traditional public school.
Choice is a very interesting concept in schools. I heard a speech by Jeb Bush one time, and I'm not saying I'm advocating Jeb Bush here on the program, but he made a very interesting analogy. He said you can walk into a supermarket and go to the milk aisle, and you can buy gallons, half gallons, quarts, pints, half pints. You can buy whole milk, 2% milk, 1% milk, skim milk, non-fat milk. You can buy non-dairy milk. You can buy almond milk. You can buy soy milk. You can buy chocolate milk, strawberry milk. The list goes on and on and on. All of this choice. Because Americans like choice. That's what we can find in the dairy aisle. But if we go to the public school system, choice is gone. One size fits all. One public school program for everybody. And that simply doesn't work. Now, you're not saying that charter schools are right for everybody.
No, they're not. I would say different students, different learners need different things. And I wouldn't say MicroSociety Academy is the right fit for every student. But, we do have a unique way of bringing about, the lessons and the common core that we're still required to teach and hanging that home for kids. For us, we have students who are running businesses, agencies, and ventures every day. And so when a kid says, why math? We're showing them why math, why that's important. We have a bank. They have to do deposits. They pay taxes and interest. You know, they're learning all those real world skills. The biggest thing too we're teaching is the 21st century skills, and the kids get practice in that every day. And why do we need the 21st century skills? It's because we're preparing kids for jobs that aren't even in existence yet. So really they need to be effective communicators, they need to be creative, they have to have those critical thinking skills. You know, these are the things that kids really need to have in the workplace to be effective society members and employees down the road.
I think that's true, certainly for the 21st century, but it's not too dissimilar to what has always been true. You need someone who can think critically, who knows how to take a risk, who knows how to convert what assets they might have into what they need to make their business succeed.
Yeah.
And that's actually a definition of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I read something interesting recently. It said that millennials are the least entrepreneurial generation in history in America. And I've done some checking on that, and in fact, most people online are saying that's true. And if we have a whole generation that's not very entrepreneurial, what's going to happen when the entrepreneurs in society ultimately retire and are gone? That's what we're seeing with baby boomers who were maybe raised with a certain ethic and a certain skill set who are leaving the workforce, and who's going to take their place. It sounds like it's not going to be the millennials, but hopefully it's going to be some kids who come through MicroSociety.
We you know, and that's what we are. I'm glad you said risk takers, because that's what we're having our kids do every day. Is, you know, it's hard in first grade, second grade, third grade to put yourself out there, run for an office, not get elected, you know, propose a business plan, get turned down for a loan. Our kid, you know, apply for a job, go through the interview process, not get the position you hoped for. Our kids are experiencing that on a regular basis, but we're here to say it's okay. It happens in society, so what are you going to do about it? You know, and they're learning that, and they're taking the risks, and they're seeing that there's a payoff down the road.
Good. So there is competition.
Oh, yes.
And competition is part of human life. And we're not going to, we have to compete for job, you have to compete for college entry. And sometimes I think our schools, our public schools, regular public schools, are insulating kids too much from competition. And the fact that competition does sometimes result in a loss. The first time I ran, by the way, I did not make it. So I did something different the second time.
Yeah.
But that's how it works. I think we learn from those experiences. That's what human life is about. Speaking of taking risks and making a success of it, a charter school gets $5,500 to $6,500. It's going to be up a little bit next year, up to $6,500 next year. There's a certain amount of risk in forming a charter school, I would think, because you have to make ends meet on a very limited budget. Yep. How do you do that?
So we also have to think outside the box ourselves. We have to go out. We have a development committee that needs to go look at other funding sources. So we apply for grants. So part of my job is grant writing. We also are looking for, you know, donors and partners with businesses that help support us in the school. We look to our parents, our PTO group called Friends of Max. That's really been an important piece of fundraising efforts for the school. You know, this year alone, in our infancy year, they brought in $20,000 alone to help subsidize our bottom line. So we do have to be creative, because it's really hard to run a school on $5,500 this year and $6,500 next year. And this year, you know, we didn't have full enrollment because we started in a temporary facility. Next year, we had an overwhelming amount of applicants, to the point that we went back to the Department of Ed and asked for an increase in enrollment. So next year, we'll be opening our doors with 150. So more kids equates to more money for us. So the best advertisement we can have is word of mouth, and that we're actually producing a great product in our school and turning out, in the sense of turning out a great education and experience for our kids.
That's great. Now, you mentioned 150, going up to enrollment of 150 next year. I think folks maybe at home need to understand that the charter school cannot accept as many people as come in. We're limited by the charter. The charter specifies how many students you can have.
That is correct. And we were supposed to have 140 this year, but because of the overwhelming wait list numbers, we asked the DOE if we could increase 10 more students, and they approved it. And then we're adding 6th grade. So this year we opened our doors with K through 5. Over the next 3 years, we're adding a grade level, so we'll eventually be K through 8. So we've asked the DOE to increase in the next 2 and 3 years, and so our total enrollment will have gone from 180 to 196. So we'll be capped at 196 per the charter.
Can that cap be adjusted again later, or is that?
It would have to be dependent on the Department of Ed.
Okay, so if the Department of Ed saw the success and wanted to allow more students to go there, it would be possible. But for right now, it's going to be limited at that.
Yes.
And that's why there's a waiting list, not because you can't expand somehow, but it's because you're not allowed. to take
And
more
the board
students.
the board of trustees feel strongly about class size and the student-teacher ratio. So this year we have a 1 to 20 students per class. But next year in the upper grades, we're going to cap at 23. And I don't see us going over 23 students in the upper grade levels. So it's just a matter of if we had more building space and had 2 classes per grade level. Like right now, we only have 1.
I see.
So it would be a matter of space that would be an issue. So I think right now it works as a small community, and hovering around the 200 number is pretty comfortable for us.
We had some discussions in the Board of Aldermen recently, as you know, about a tax break that Don LeBrun, who's a state rep as well as an alderman here in town, wanted to sponsor to give charter schools a little bit of a break on the finances, because clearly you don't have that much money. You have half the amount that a regular public school would get per student, and you don't charge tuition either, right? This is not a private school.
We're public.
Public school. Is there an entrance exam to get in?
No, it's based on lottery. So we have an application process. It's just informational. Proof of residency, like any public school would require, birth certificate or passport, like any public school would require. Just those kind of housekeeping issues to be registered for the lottery or the application process, and then it's luck of the draw. It's a blind lottery based on numbers. Your student is assigned a number, and we draw from a hat.
Then if a student is in a lottery, let's say for kindergarten, and gets in, then that student's not subject to the lottery again the next year.
No, we just ask them to sign an intent to re-enroll come January, so we know how many spaces we have for the next year's lottery, but that's it. They're in. As long
So
as they
there's
want to be
no
with us.
exam, there's no tuition bill?
Nope. We accept any students, IEP students, 504 students. We're public education. All kids are accepted.
How many IEP, let's say special ed students, do you have roughly?
We roughly are about 10% for IEPs and 5% for 504s.
Now, based on your experience in regular public schools and what you know about the national public school system, how do those numbers compare to regular elementary schools?
They're very similar. 504s might be light, but IEPs generally are in the 10% range for schools would be an average, I would say.
How does the funding for an IEP work, or for a special ed? You have to fit that into the 5,500?
So no, that's luckily it would be virtually impossible to do that. So it's not an ideal situation, but it comes from the residing school district, from that student. So if it was a Nashua student, the Nashua is responsible for the special ed portion of their needs and the financial implications that come with that. It's not ideal for us or them, but until a charter school had full funding for a special ed student, we really couldn't support what they need. But luckily, I've been working closely with the new director of special ed, Christine Breen in Nashua, and she's been really receptive to different ideas, and we've decided that they're going to help fund a half position next year of a special educator to be housed in our school.
I see.
So we both had to agree on what were the certification requirements, what application requirements for that person, and then agreed on the hire together. So it's nice to have this collaboration and relationship. But it also, what we've been doing right now is running around to all different city schools, having special ed meetings, and this brings one teacher in the building to support my teachers, to be available to the students, and really keep everything consistent. Because when you're running to different city schools, one team might function this way, another team might function this way. So this is going to be a lot smoother process, we're hopeful. So we're really appreciative to Nashua to think outside the box and be supportive in that way.
I'm very glad to hear that. Unfortunately, the legislation that we were talking about is stalled right now. It failed. It's been tabled. It could come back. I think it would be a great thing to grant a little bit of property tax relief. Of course, you are a public school. Our regular public schools pay no property tax.
Yes, and we have a triple net lease, and we are responsible for everything that involves the building and operations. So if we have a roof fail, it's on us.
So triple net means that you pay rent, but you also pay everything else as if you own the building.
All utilities, all taxes, all repairs.
That's what the triple is. Taxes, utilities, and repairs, as if you were the owner.
Correct.
There was some discussion about the legislation, and some of the opponents were claiming that this would be a tax break to the owner of the building and they wouldn't give you the benefit. But in fact, the owners of these buildings on a commercial lease, which is pretty standard. Triple net is a pretty standard commercial lease. They don't pay the taxes at all.
No, we do.
You, as the occupant of the building, pay the taxes, and so this would come directly to you. And clearly, there's a very good value, I think.
Directly to kids.
Directly
You
to
know,
kids.
$20,000 could potentially be another part-time position in the building.
How much do you pay in taxes a year?
About $20,000.
Be about 20.
Yeah.
The legislation would give you a break on up to 90% of that. So that would be significant. It'd be $18,000 potentially that you could save, and that's a significant amount of money.
For a small school like ours, it
Yes.
is a very, we'd welcome that amount of money.
Of course.
Yeah, it's hard to fundraise $18,000.
It is. And so you get money from the state, but you also have to do your own fundraising.
We do, yeah. Luckily, our friends at Max, and we had our first annual auction on Friday night and the 20th of May, and we were able to raise about roughly $10,000 that night alone. And then with the efforts of our PTO, which is our friends at Max Group, they've done another $10,000. But that money has gone basically to a playground. We started our school year without a playground, which is very difficult for a K through 5 school to function without a playground. So those efforts really went directly to that because that wasn't part of our original build out. So those are the things we're trying to do for our children.
Which makes the point that you have to prioritize.
Yes.
If you've got $5,500 per student, you can't do everything. What we're discovering now in the budget, we're going through the budget cycle here in Nashua, and we have a spending cap, and the budget's very tight this year, and the Board of Aldermen and the mayor are forced to really, I think, for the first time, at least in my term, to really consider what the priorities of spending are. And in a school like yours, a charter school, when you have that little money, you really need to focus on what the priorities are. So what are your priorities?
Well, our biggest expenses are operations and payroll. So obviously, we have to meet those first in order to have the building running and keep our staff. After that, it's programs. Any other programs and curriculum materials we can bring into the school, and so we feel strongly about having special classes, which a lot of the charter schools don't have. Let's say a physical ed teacher. We do.
I see.
We have a music teacher. We have an art teacher. So those are other things like we want to prioritize for our students, but it's difficult on the money we have. So this year we've had a PE teacher 1 day a week, and we don't have a field. So we have to be really creative. We don't have a lot of equipment, but our teachers are really good at thinking outside the box and making things fun for kids. We have art 1 day a week as well, and music 1 day a week. So that's something the board felt strongly about. And hopefully, as we grow, we want to add foreign language in there.
Oh, that'd be great.
So we are in the sense of very traditional in our academics. We're still a public school. We still have to teach the Common Core standards. We still have to take the Smarter Balanced Assessment each year. But how we get there and teach our kids those standards, we have a lot more creativity and flexibility on how we do that. And myself as administrator, I have purchased curriculum for teachers as a tool, but I'm not standing there and dictating, you're going to pre-test kids on this day, you're going to stick to this pacing guide, and you're going to post-test on this day. I do progress monitor kids 3 times a year to ensure they're still making adequate growth in a year's time, but teachers really have the ability to create their own lessons and decide what that looks like.
That's different.
And I really think that sets us aside, yeah.
I think it does too, because that's not how it works in the regular public schools, from what I understand. Much of the curriculum is dictated, and it forces that non-choice environment that we described earlier.
Correct.
Are your teachers licensed?
Actually, the state dictates that 50% are, but all my classroom teachers are licensed.
So you have licensed teachers. Who do they largely have other teaching experience?
I would say the majority of them came from other traditional public schools as well, and really wanted a change. They were looking for a change and looking to have that, creativity and availability to do what they wanted to do in the classroom. Freedom to do to teach the way that they think kids should learn best.
Can I ask how you attract those teachers? You have salary, you have benefits, or what do you offer a teacher to come in? I want to sort of get a sense of how that compares to the budget that the regular public school would have.
I think the big selling points with this year was difficult because we did not have benefits for teachers. The only thing we were able to offer this year was 70% on a single health plan. So that's very hard to attract a young family. any teacher with a family when that's all we could offer. But again, it comes back to that freedom of how they teach. I think the concept of who we are was really hit home for the people. And also, MicroSociety Inc., it's not a new concept. There's over 200 schools in the United States
Oh.
teaching with the MicroSociety beliefs, and they're proven. And some of the data that comes back from that is the discipline issues are far down in those schools than a traditional public school. And after this year, I can tell you I have the same data. As a administrator, I can go a week without a discipline referral in my office.
Wow.
I'd say if you went to a traditional,
Not gonna be
city
the
school,
case.
that's not going to be
We have
the
to have
case.
police officers in our schools.
Correct. So that is another attraction because we have kids who want to be there. Again, it's free choice. We'll take anyone, but the kids are there because they want to be there. The families are there because they care about what kind of education their child is getting, and they're very supportive in that aspect. So we have very supportive families who care about what their kids are doing, want to see their children succeed, want to see their children move on in their educational careers. And to have a classroom full of that is priceless for a teacher.
So it is. That's really a very, very good point. So the quality of the work environment is greatly enhanced, although the compensation is probably not as good.
No, our average teacher salary for the 2016-17 school year, we range from $36,000 to $41,000.
Wow. Do you offer a
And
pension?
we are not this year, but next year we'll have a simple IRA with a 2% match.
So it's an IRA as opposed to a guaranteed payout pension.
Correct. We cannot afford the New Hampshire Teacher Retirement Pension Plan.
No, it's not we can't either. Oops, I will
Right,
tell you that
right.
we
And
cannot
we could
either.
talk a lot about why that happened, but yeah,
Yes.
it's not affordable for a charter school to even consider it.
Right.
But we are trying to supplement in other ways by having a 50% match on a long-term or short-term disability plan. We're offering a life insurance plan, $50,000, but it's something, and
It's
it's paid in full by the school. We do have sick days, paid personal days, professional days. So we are trying to be a little more competitive. A lot of the other charter schools, for health example, we are offering 2 health plans under Harvard program. We will do 50% match for family, 50% for a family, 60% for 2-person, and 75% for a single. It's not a lot compared to the traditional public schools. They have better offerings. But a lot of charter schools are just giving a stipend. They might give $2,500 and say this is all you have towards it. So we feel that helps us, keep the staff around that really want to be here, and it makes us more competitive because high turnover is a killer for a school.
It is a killer for a school, but on the other hand, it can guarantee some fresh ideas. I will tell you that in the National Public School, there's virtually no turnover.
Yeah.
I think it's because there's a realization that they have the best deal they're ever going to get anywhere. And
So
so
it's the whole tenure.
it's the
No,
tenure.
which
You don't offer
tenure
tenure.
is not really right. Well, no, we're all year-to-year contracts at will employees. We're not unionized. So I mean, in the tenure too. I mean, as long as you have just cause in a traditional school, you can still let a teacher go. But it's
Well,
doing the work behind that. But
yeah.
we're year-to-year, so teachers know they have to earn their spot.
They have to earn their spot. I think it's important. It gets back to the whole idea of being competitive. Throughout life, whatever job or occupation we want to have, we have to be competitive in order to continue to provide value, and it's all about providing value.
But I think employees who want to be teachers and that's who they are and it's in their heart and
Yes.
it's not a worry.
It's not a worry. I can tell you I'm a flight instructor, I'm a pilot, and you don't make any money doing that. But it's what I enjoy doing.
Correct.
And I did a lot of different things until I finally found what I felt like I was made to do. And to me, it's a very satisfying field to be in. So I'm teaching one-on-one with some high stakes. Of course, there can be some serious consequences of doing something wrong.
Right.
But I find it very satisfying, even though the pay is low. So I presume that you have good teachers.
We have great teachers. We're very excited about the staff we had in our infancy year, and as we grow, we're adding more staff, and we have our new hires all wrapped up already. So we're excited about that.
You have great teachers, and the great teachers at your school are about $41,000.
With master's degrees and over 5 years experience.
If we were to have great teachers in the regular national public schools, at that kind of a rate, we could begin, I believe, moving towards better quality, of education and a better value for the taxpayer. It's hard to do that. I recognize it's hard to do that, but
Yeah.
this is one of the things that charter schools, I think, do that benefits a district or benefits a board of aldermen or a city like this, is it shows what the other possibilities are. It is possible to have great teachers at a much lower cost. It is possible to deliver a great education at a lower cost. And it's possible to provide, in the end, better value for the taxpayers.
It would be nice to be able to give, you know, bonuses when we could.
Sure.
Always provide a cost of living raise, you know, but that just, it comes year to year and what we have on the bottom line and what's left. And
Right.
so what we can afford year to year in our budget. So we'll see, you know, we hope to reward the teachers that,
Of course.
you know, work
You want to
hard,
reward good employees.
give back, and absolutely.
Well, next year, if you have a few extra students, hopefully
gonna
that
help.
will. It's going to help. It's
Yeah.
going to help a lot. Amy, we're nearly out of time here. It's just a minute and a half left. Anything you'd like to add about MicroSociety, how people could contact you or contact the school, or what the enrollment process is?
So we have a website that's a wealth of information about our missions process, who we are, what our mission is, our values. That's www.macsnh.org. And so it's MicroSociety Academy Charter School, New Hampshire.org is what the acronym is. So we're having our second round lottery on June 2nd. And we have a few spots left, and we've had the applications rolling in. So we feel horrible we can't take everyone. We just encourage people to get on the wait list because you never know what can happen. Families move.
Sure.
You know, plans change over the summer, but we know we're confident we're opening our doors with 150 next year with a wait list. So
That sounds
you know,
great. Can
we're
folks
really
come in for a
excited.
tour if they want to at some stage?
So we usually have admissions nights. We will have some office hours over the summer. So if they wanted to tour, then they could definitely set it up. We have an info email too on the website. So if you want any questions answered, you can email us through that, or you can call our main office at 595-7877.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Amy, for coming in. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hope to have you in again. And I think the charter school movement is doing wonderful things for students and for the taxpayers, as well as providing a wonderful place to work for those who really do love education.
Yeah, it's
and
been
wanna have
fun
that
this year.
opportunity.
We've been a lot of smiles come the end of
Good.
this year with all the accomplishments.
Well, it's nice
It's
to have
hard to start
smiles
up,
because the
yeah.
kids learn better,
Yeah,
I think, when they're smiling.
that's
Thank
true.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, folks, for tuning in. We're glad to have you here. My name is David Schoeneman. Once again, I'm your host on the program Perspectives, and I'm the Alderman for Ward 3. And I've been here with Amy Bottomley, who is the founding director of MicroSociety of Nashua, one of the charter schools here in the city that is really delivering great value to you, the taxpayer. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us at perspectivesnh@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer your emails and have whatever comment you'd like to make. We're certainly willing to listen to all of that. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.